officially...
You're back.
Back-ish from maternity leave. We are just gonna tell all of the details about our story. All the nitty-gritty details. I thought I was gonna die. I was like, this is awful. Not to scare y'all, but it was awful. Obviously, we put up a vlog of that day and showed a good chunk of it, but there are a lot of details that we did not manage to catch on camera because the day was just so hectic.
You gasped and that scared me because I thought he was like coming out right then.
No, what? And so we thought we would come on here and just tell the whole story. He was all up in that thing, which we had never seen on a single ultrasound.
So that night, I actually got invited to like a basketball game.
Yeah, a Mavs game. So I was, what, 38 weeks and 3 days?
Yeah.
So I didn't think there was a chance that I was going into labor because I wasn't feeling anything.
You were
like,
just fine.
I was just fine. And so when he was like, can I go to a Mavs game? I was like, sure, like I'm fine. And then he jokingly said, watch you go into labor while I'm gone. And so what happened was I was at Billy and Ace's house.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out with them and I jokingly was like, you know what? Let's play Just Dance. Maybe it'll put me into labor. You know, by the time you're at the end of your pregnancy, you were so ready to have the baby. I was like, anything to put me into labor, like anything. So we played Just Dance and I was like, haha, like we'll see if this puts me into labor. And then like 5 minutes later at Bailey and Ace's house, I lost my mucus plug.
That's what it was, yeah.
Which is like one of the like indicators that you're probably gonna go into labor relatively soon, within a handful of days. So we thought it was so funny that he actually kind of joked that labor was gonna start while he was gone, and then I had like my first sign that labor might start while he was gone. But obviously I didn't have any contractions or anything at the time. I lost my mucus plug, which if you're not familiar with what that is, there's like this little plug that your body creates to help prevent bacteria from getting up into your uterus and like stuff where the baby is. Obviously when the baby needs to starts to want to come out, that plug has to leave.
And it looks like just like snot, right?
Yeah, it looks like snot, which is a gross description, yeah. So sorry, TMI. But it does look like snot. Whenever you lose it, it can be an indicator that you're going into labor, obviously, because the baby wants to come out. That's what happened on Thursday night.
Friday night.
Friday night.
Yeah.
I'm like, what were the days I'm forgetting?
No. Friday night, Saturday.
No, Friday morning. Saturday morning. Wait, what was, I'm getting confused. No, Friday night.
Friday night that happened.
That happened.
And then Saturday, or sorry. Oh my gosh.
I know, Friday night. So later that night slash the next morning.
Yeah, it's 2 a.m.
So I lost my mucus plug at whatever, like 10 p.m.
Yes.
And then at 3 a.m., almost on the dot 3 a.m.
Our bed was
I literally remember waking up and feeling like a little trickle, which is normal by the end of your pregnancy. Then it just like went from a trickle to like seriously like a waterfall of water.
Oh.
And I was laying down in bed and that's when I gasped.
You gasped and that scared me because I thought he was like coming out right then.
No, what?
No, I thought the water was gonna break as we were giving birth.
Yeah.
You did kind of like, it was loud. I thought he was like coming. And
so I got out of bed and
as soon as you got out of bed.
I remember climbing out of bed and being like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. That's, I just kept saying that over and over again. And then I looked at Dakota and I'm like, I think my water just broke. My midwife told me that some people's water doesn't like break dramatically. Sometimes it can be a leak.
No, yours
Mine broke so
she literally
dramatically.
Opened her underwear a little bit and it just
all over, like in the movies, splashed all over the bathroom floor. And I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
The floor was soaked.
I just remember kind of,
our bed was too.
Yeah, the bed was soaked, the floor was soaked. I remember just kind of being in shock, like, oh my gosh, this is happening. I'm like, Dakota, my water broke. And at this point I'm like, I don't know what to do because I'm not having contractions. So normally you're having contractions. So we contacted our doula and just said, hey, like Dakota said, hey, her water broke. And she advised that I like clean myself up and get myself to go to sleep and get as much sleep as possible, because inevitably, because my water broke, I was going to have the baby in 1 to 2 days. And so she was like, if you can catch up on as much sleep as possible, get rest. And I slept that whole night.
Yeah, you were just fine.
And I woke up hoping that I would have contractions, and I had no contractions.
No, the whole day.
Yeah.
All day Saturday.
Yeah. By the time I woke up and didn't have contractions, we were both kind of like, like what's going on? Like, what do we do? So that's when we texted the midwife. She suggested that we come in for an appointment that day so she can just check everything out and make sure I look okay and make sure there's not an emergency, that I don't need to go to the hospital for some reason. And so we went into the appointment. Basically, she told us that like 90% of moms whose water breaks prematurely, so before they start labor, will inevitably start labor within 48 hours of their water breaking. So at this point, I think it had been 12 hours since my water broke. And so I had another like 36 hours before she was really gonna be concerned. She was gonna give me the 48-hour window to start labor. And then if I wasn't ready and I wasn't starting labor on my own, then she would send me to the hospital. Yeah. We tried everything that day. We curb walked, we bounced on the labor ball,
I got a funny story.
Yeah.
So we were curb walking that day, going back and forth down the neighborhood, and our neighbor saw Brooklyn curb walking.
Yeah.
2 days later, he walks out, he's like, "Congrats on the baby, it looks like the curb walking worked."
Yeah, it's true, it did. Dakota's right. We curb walked and we did all these things during the day and nothing worked. And I tried, finally in the evening, I tried the mile circuit. And at this point, we went over to dinner with Bailey and Asa, and I started to have very mild contractions, like every
10 minutes.
10, 15 minutes. They weren't super consistent, so I was
bigger
like...
than your Braxton Hicks.
They were bigger, yes, bigger than Braxton Hicks, but not like super painful or super consistent. They kind of felt more like just period cramps. But inevitably, those got worse and more consistent over time. And by the time 10 p.m. hit and I was like in bed, I was having very consistent, pretty painful contractions.
It went from like 10 minutes to like 6.
Yeah, it kind of progressed really quickly. We were at Bailey and Ace's house for dinner at like 6
We went home
o'clock.
at like 11.
And by the time we got home, my contractions were consistent and painful. I try to get as much sleep as possible that night. I mean, if you have ever experienced a contraction in your life, it's impossible to sleep through them. They hurt bad, like bad.
And
as Dakota, I would like roll over and I would count to 10 to get through the contractions.
Yeah, it was like,
yeah, I'd be like, and I would count 1, 2, 3, 4.
And then 2 o'clock hit.
And then 2 a.m.
And it was
hit.
a totally different ball game.
The way contractions work is they progressively get closer together and more intense. And that's like kind of an indicator of how dilated you are and like how far along you are in your labor process. I probably was dilating to like a 4 or a 5 in the beginning, and then 2 o'clock I probably hit like a 5, and that's when it ramped up and it got really painful.
I remember putting you in the tub and you like the pain was gone. Like
it just was a lot better.
It was better.
Yeah, it was a lot better.
And then we were timing the contractions is like 2 minutes 30 seconds, and this whole time I'm like messaging our doula. Our doula's like, "All right, it's time to go to the birth center." I was like, "Brooklyn, let's go," and she did not. She's like, "I'm not getting out of this tub."
Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life.
We took classes and our doula's like, "You will know when it's time because they will not listen to you and
they will not want to leave.
They will not want to leave the house.
Yeah, they won't want to leave the house. So at this point, my contractions are every 2 minutes, which is usually a regular indicator that like you're probably gonna have the baby within a handful of hours. And so the midwife and doula were like, "Come in, like baby time." So at 5:30 in the morning,
we left at 5.
Drove me to the midwife. We had called Bailey and Asa, and they had come over, and Bailey was helping get us ready and like make sure she grabbed all of our bags and everything, and they drove with us to the midwife appointment because Bailey wanted to be there for the birth. And we didn't want a ton of people in the birth room. The only person that came in was Bailey. Everyone else I wanted to come and see me after the baby was born. Like the drive there is awful because you guys, you don't know pain until you're literally contracting and having to hit bumps on the road. Like
that, and it's like you're trying not to speed because you don't know when he's coming. Like
yeah, it was crazy. The other thing about my birth was because my water broke, my contractions were more intense. Like my doctor said, because my water was broken, like my contractions were basically, she said, gonna be more painful. When I was contracting, it wasn't contracting on water, like a squishy water balloon. It was contracting on like the baby's elbows and knees, which is a lot more painful. And so I think that's part of why I was like in so much pain the whole time, was because I had no cushion when I was having a contraction. Anyway, so that's why like hitting bumps on the road, I was literally like gripping everything and groaning. It was awful. But we get to the...
It's hard for me because there's like nothing I can do.
No. I'm just in the passenger seat like, ah. Anyway, so we got to the birth center,
went inside, and we started doing laps.
Yeah, I started walking and pacing. I did not want to sit down. I did not want to lay down in bed. I wanted to move because movement, I felt like, was going to help me progress. It got my mind off of it. So my doula started working with me through exercises and walking.
Our doula was awesome.
She was awesome.
She was like, Brooklyn was just doing laps around the building inside, and our doula was just sitting there like rubbing your back the whole time.
I literally couldn't have given birth without the doula.
No.
So if you learn anything from this video, it's get yourself a doula for birth.
Doula.
They're amazing. What ended up happening was my labor kind of stalled out, which is pretty typical. My midwife said for when you transition locations, sometimes it can like put your body into a stress mode a little bit. Your labor can stall. And so my labor ended up stalling. So we got to the birth center and my contractions were 2 minutes apart before we got there, and then we got there and they spread out to like 4 to 5 minutes apart, and it stayed that way for a few hours. Like I stalled out for a few hours. Inevitably, what we ended up doing was I got my cervix checked by the midwife, and
soon as that she checked.
Yeah, she told me I was at a 9
to 10, yeah.
So I was literally gonna have him, and except that she said I had a little piece of my cervix that was hanging on by a thread, which was preventing me from dilating to a 10. But Archie's head was right there, so he was ready to come out. I just needed my cervix to dilate. And what was happening was every time I contracted this little piece of cervix, his head was coming down and pressing on it and pinching it. That was causing me excruciating pain. Normally when I would have a contraction, I would try to relax into it so that my body would dilate instead of trying to resist it. Whenever I had these contractions where it was pinching, I couldn't relax. Like when I tell you,
that hurt worse than
it hurt worse than pushing him out.
Yeah.
I literally was in the most excruciating pain I've ever been in my life. Like I thought I was gonna die. I was like, this is awful. Not to scare y'all, but it was awful.
It was just cool because they knew exactly what was happening, and they knew exactly what to do
how to fix it. As soon as we figured out what was going on, we worked through some like labor positions.
Not even like 30 minutes probably.
And at this point, I am doing anything to take my mind off of labor. We turned on New Girl, and I watched New Girl for probably 2.5 hours straight.
Tried to feed you as much as we.
Yeah.
She did. She just didn't want to eat.
No, guys. And then what happened was, okay, this is the craziest part for me. You know, in the movies, they always are like, okay, now push. And they tell you when to push. My midwife did not ever tell me. My doula did not ever tell me when to push. But there is a natural push instinct in your body. Literally, it's crazy. Like, all of a sudden you'll be having a contraction, and then you'll just like literally, you can't physically resist it. You can't stop your body from pushing. Like it will literally push on its own. So my midwife wanted to make sure I was ready to push, so she waited until I started to push on my own. So what ends up happening is you kind of just lock up and like you're pooping basically. And I started pushing as soon as that like cervix went away on its own. So that's how they knew the cervix had resolved itself, was because I started naturally pushing. And then we worked our way over to like a stool where I stood one like up on a stool with my arms around Dakota, and I probably pushed like that for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's when they could see his head, was when I was pushing like that. And they were checking his heart rate and everything. He was A-okay.
Oh, yeah.
He was having a grand old time. His heart rate was steady as could be. Like they kept laughing. They were like, he's unbothered in there. Like he's having a good time. Meanwhile, I'm dying. I'm pushing, and it was really interesting because my contractions had been so excruciating up until this point. And as soon as I was able to start pushing, the pain just went gone. Like it was gone. It basically felt like I was trying to poop.
Did you feel the pain leave before you got in the tub or during? Before.
It was even less in the tub, but it was pretty much gone when I was trying to push. Like the contractions just like stopped hurting. I was under the impression that the worst part of birth was going to be pushing the baby actually out. No, the pain like went away. The worst part was 100% the contractions at the very end. Go figure, maybe that's just my birth experience. I did not hurt to push him out. That should give some of y'all hope, because I know that seems scary, but it really wasn't that bad. And basically what ended up happening is they could see his head. Did they show you his head?
No, I didn't see his head till we got in the tub, and then they put the mirror in.
Okay, so they told me they could see his head, and she asked me, how do you want to birth? Like, do you want to birth on your hands and knees, or do you want to birth in or out of the tub? I said I wanted to birth in the tub on my knees. And so we got in the tub, I got on my knees, and I started pushing. But it was really weird. My contractions were still only coming every 4 to 5 minutes, which was super weird. Normally by the end of labor, your contractions are coming very frequently. Mine were only coming like every 5 minutes, so I could only push push with my contraction. So I could only push one time every 5 minutes. Getting him out was a little bit of a slow process. I probably pushed on my hands and knees for what, like 30 minutes? And then they could really see his head, but I just didn't feel like, my body didn't feel right. Like something didn't feel right for me. I was like, no, he's not gonna come out like this. Like, I don't know how I knew that. I just knew that. And I immediately laid on my side in the tub. Like, and as soon as I laid on my side, it felt like he just slipped out.
Oh my gosh, that's the coolest thing.
And it probably took another 15 minutes, 20 minutes of me pushing on my side.
They kept checking his heart rate, like, and then they would stick a mirror down and they could see his hair.
They kept asking me if I wanted to feel his head.
Yeah, and you didn't want, you wouldn't.
At
first you did not want to.
Guys, I love my baby, don't get me wrong. I was sicked out by the idea of touching the head. I don't know why. The idea of like feeling myself stretch like that while also feeling the baby's head while he's inside me sicked me out. That scared the crap out of me. I was like, heck no. They asked me probably 7 or 8 times while I was pushing, do you want to feel him? And I was like,
Yeah, but you did end up
I did feel him one time because I was like, okay, I'm gonna regret if I don't. I was scared by that. I did touch it, but it was gross. I didn't like it.
After that is the Ring of Fire.
Yeah, and then I was in the Ring of Fire, which is basically where you're, you know, dilated really, really big and their head is about to come out.
He like kept coming like clear to his ears, then you went back in, you go out to his ears, go back in.
He was kind of stuck behind my pubic bone for a little while, so he would like peek out and then come back in and peek out and then come back in and peek out and come back in, and I just had to like get a really good push to get him out, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't tear, so I didn't want to like push so hard that my skin tore, and so I just tried to let it naturally happen, and it did, and I didn't tear. As soon as you got
to his ear, the rest of the body did.
Yeah. So then he just kind of popped out, his head popped out, and then like the next contraction, his whole body came out, and that is when the craziness happened. The craziness started. Dakota was actually
never.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
It was the scariest day of my life.
I pushed the baby out. Mind you, this whole time, like, I'm in the Ring of Fire, I literally didn't make a single noise. Like, I like, the movies make it seem like they're, like, screaming, and maybe some people are. Maybe it's really painful. For me, it literally felt like taking a poop. Like, I was, like, pooping. Like, scream when you poop. So I was silent. So I didn't even know, like, really when I had delivered him. Like, all I felt was kind of like like, almost like I had lost 5 pounds, which I did. And so I asked, I'm like, is he out? And the midwife was like, yes, but he has the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck, his arms, and his legs. He was all up in that thing, which we had never seen on a single ultrasound. I think that he may have just gotten tangled in it at the very end.
We pulled him out, we tried to unwind him.
Yes.
And at that point, we can't stick him back underwater, so that's when we had Brooklyn stand up.
The reason why you can't take them out of the water is because they breathe out of the placenta when they're inside your womb, and so they don't actually need oxygen. So if you deliver a baby into water, they actually can stay underwater as long as you haven't delivered the placenta yet. Originally, when I delivered him into the water, and then they saw he was tangled up and tried to unwrap him in the water, but they didn't have enough room. So she said, I'm gonna pull him out of the water, and I have to be quick about unwrapping him, because if she can't get it off of his neck, he would have been suffocating basically, because he needs to breathe oxygen, but you can't breathe if something's choking you. So I had just pushed him out on my side, so I'm like laying on my side probably 5 seconds ago, and immediately they're like, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. They yank me up to my feet so they could untwist him and then pass him to me.
But unfortunately, the lack of food Brooklyn had and the blood that she lost,
I don't know what it was. It was probably a combination of all of the above, but I remember from my perspective, they unwrapped him. She was a boss woman. She literally, I delivered him, and she had him unwrapped from that umbilical cord in probably less than 15 seconds. Like, she was a bam, 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 bam. So this all happened so fast, and then they stood me up so fast. Like, I just gave birth, literally just gave birth, and they just yanked me to my feet because they wanted to make sure they could help him, which is totally fine. Whatever they need to do. And then they passed me the baby, and I sat back down, and I was holding him, and I just remember being in shock. Like, oh my gosh, I just delivered him. Like, this is insane. And then I looked to the side, and I could see all of this blood draining down the tub, which is normal. Giving birth, there's kind of a messy business, but something about the combination of lack of food, lack of
getting
sleep,
up quick,
and then standing up so fast. I mean, imagine having like a baby in there. All of your organs are like up in here, and then they stood me up, and all my organs probably just like crashed to the bottom of my body and just like put my body into shock. We were kind of talking for like a minute, And I just remember getting woozier and woozier and woozier.
I can't think of
And
those.
all of a sudden I was like, someone take the baby, someone take the baby.
Her eyes just go
and
back
they
of her
managed to
head.
grab him in just enough time that I like
She
passed out. I literally just went boom, like out. And at this point, I don't know what happened.
I know I was bawling like a baby. I jumped in that freaking tub so fast. They told me to pick up your legs, so I picked up your legs. I mean, we just had to sit there and wait for a second, and you came back.
From what I've heard from everyone who was there with you, between you and Bailey, what happened was like,
You were pale white.
Yeah, I was super pale. My eyes like went in the back of my head and I just like kind of collapsed. They have the baby. He's still attached to me. I have not delivered the placenta. They were trying to get you to cut the umbilical cord. And you were panicked. You
were passed out.
Were crying. They were like trying to get you to come over and like, cause I mean, I'm passed out, but in order to get the baby off me, they have to cut the umbilical cord. So they were like, Dakota, come over, come over. Cause I wanted him to cut the umbilical cord, and they were gonna, you know what? I appreciate my doctor so much. They were going to follow my birth plan. They were to the T. I wanted Dakota to cut the umbilical cord. They were gonna make it happen even though I was still passed out. They brought Dakota over and they had to cut the umbilical cord. I remember waking up to you cutting his umbilical cord. They cut the umbilical cord. They were able to take him off of me. Dakota cut the umbilical cord like a champ. Like
it took twice, but those things are tough.
Yeah, and then he grabbed the baby and he was able to take the baby while the midwife made sure I was okay.
And then it was game over when he freaking laid on my chest.
Yeah. Then he was in love. And then inevitably they helped me climb out of the tub and work my way over to the bed where Dakota was with the baby, and they handed me the baby and I got to hold Archer on my skin on skin, and they helped me latch him.
Makes me cry just thinking about that.
Yeah.
Like going back.
Yeah.
It's just the most special thing ever.
Yeah, it's insane. Like when he cried, I literally just like, I was in so much shock. I was just like, I did it.
Usually
I had a baby.
Usually you don't like baby cries. They're like annoying, but this is just like so perfect.
No, it's the most beautiful sound you've ever heard. Like that, just whenever you deliver the baby and and you just hear that little like that is like the most beautiful sound to your ears. It's like music. And for like probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, it was me, Dakota, and the baby, and we just laid there, all of us with our shirts off. Like they were teaching me how to put him on the boob so that he could breastfeed, and he ate right there, like 10 minutes after I gave birth.
I mean, it was pretty cool. From when you gave birth to when we left was only like 3 hours.
Yeah, we were home 4 hours after I gave birth.
Yeah.
They took him after the 2 hours. They weighed him. They gave him all of his stuff that he needed.
So they measured the placenta.
Oh yeah. So this was the crazy part.
Yeah.
The umbilical cord, not the placenta.
Yeah, sorry, the umbilical cord. And I guess common umbilical cord is like 21 inches. His was 41 inches. 41 inches.
Yeah. Hence why he was tangled in it. Yeah.
Freaking jump roping.
The little guy, we keep joking, he was
roping in
He was roping in there.
Oh my gosh.
I had a really hard time standing up. Like I wasn't even able to take a shower after I gave birth because I couldn't stand up for that long because I just felt so lightheaded. So they literally wheeled me out of the birth center.
In a wheelchair.
I don't even think it was a wheelchair. I think it was just like a rolly office chair. They didn't have a wheelchair.
Right. It was just an office chair.
Yeah, it was just a rolly off because they didn't have a wheelchair.
Yeah,
so they just rolled me in an office chair to the car, and I had to lay down in the passenger seat of Bailey's car, and she drove me home, and you drove Archer home.
Yeah, our car seat was
in our car.
Yeah, it was in the seat behind the passengers. So
yeah, so we had to split up so I could lay down.
That's right.
And then we got home and my parents were here and
they had food for us.
It was the best, honestly, because everything was so overwhelming in the birth center. It was so nice to be able to come home and then have my family there.
They were watching Archer, and then we just
they kind of watched him. My mom came in and helped me like deal with everything. You know, you just a lot going on after you gave birth to a baby, and she stayed with us for the entire week, which was just like
so nice,
a lifesaver.
Because I'll be honest with you, I had no idea even how to hold a baby, let alone burp and change a diaper.
It's like a whole thing. So she helped us, and anyway, so that is our official birth
I'm
story.
pro now.
Yeah,
I can freaking change a diaper with my eyes closed.
Dakota's a pro dad. I am becoming pro.
You are pro
mom. We are figuring it out, but that was our crazy birth story. All of the details that we were able to capture on camera. If you guys are curious about anything or have questions or like want to know more about like, I don't know, the process of giving birth the way I did it, leave questions in the comments below.
See you next week.
See you next week. I guess I'm back, so see you next week. Bye y'all.
See ya.